What's up, everybody? J Heat Sports Media coming at y'all again with that fire as always. Spitting the hot topics and getting the sports conversation started. Y'all know what I'm talking about, football, basketball, or boxing. Let's get into some boxing. Terence, Crawford, Errol, Spence. A lot of talk been going on. I know y'all saw that live by Terence Crawford yesterday. Let's talk about it. So Terence confirmed some things that was floating around already by various sources about the fact that he was willing to take less. There were sources out there reporting that with the Spence fight, he was willing to take 65-35 split, where he only got 35% of the gross of everything that they was going to earn. Now, some people reported 60-40, heard 65-35. Either way, he was taking the less, and he said as much on his IG. He also mentioned he was trying to get the guaranteed money going through various other sources other than Al Heyman and PBC and Showtime, and tried to convince Spence to do so. Upwards of $50 million between the two of them they could have earned. Apparently $25 million apiece. Guaranteed money, but who knows how the splits was going to work, or if there were any splits, it was just a guarantee. Now, nobody knows the books on how this fight's going to go, and the main issue is going to be what is the overall interest in this fight. Boxing purists and people that pay attention to boxing know this is the biggest fight in boxing. The two best, arguably, fighters in the world pound for pound. Terence Crawford's number one on most people's list. Errol Spence is somewhere between from 1 all the way down to 5, but if you got him lower than 5, you just hating. Probably honest top 3. For me, he's probably number 2 or 3 on my list. That being said, whoever wins this fight, should it happen, for sure is going to be considered the pound for pound best in the world until proven otherwise. And the fans, the purists, want this. Now, do the novice want it? Because that's what they're hoping for, I feel like, with PBC. When you talk about Floyd Mayweather versus Oscar De La Hoya, or Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao, it wasn't just about the boxing purists or the people that watch boxing. People that never really watched boxing wanted to see it because they knew the names Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. They knew about these guys. These guys was earning big purses by themselves, let alone with each other. So it made for such a mega fight because people were willing to spend loot, tremendous loot, on the fight. We ain't gonna get quite that much for this one. And my honest opinion is we need to get these fights more often, and then maybe you will get more novice interested. If we have some real good slug it out, Hagler versus Hearns type of matchups, Leonard versus Hearns type of matchups, if you know what I'm talking about, your real good boxing matches, if we get them more often like you get them in the UFC, maybe these fighters' names would get built up more. But everybody seems to be trying to protect their zero on that record. And it's not always the fighters. I'm talking about the promoters as well, because that zero helps them market that fighter a little bit more, in my opinion. So we still waiting on this fight, trying to figure out what's going to happen. And Terence dropped a lot of knowledge on his side of it, and the fact that he basically decided, okay, we're not going to get any guaranteed money, but I still, if I'm going to take the less of this split, I need to be able to see the paperwork. I need to see, if you telling me I'm getting 35%, I need to see when you give me the money that it's really 35%. So show me the total. That seems simple enough. He says Al didn't agree to it. That may be very well true. But let me tell you what I think. Now, one more thing before I get into my opinion on what I think's going on here. Understand, Errol Spence did respond to Terence from that IG post. Now, Terence, around 10 o'clock, he went live on Tuesday. Then Wednesday, he had a tweet he put out talking about the fact if Spence thought he was lying, he would have responded. And he tagged him in the tweet. You can see it right here. Pretty much saying, I gave y'all the straight truth. And the truth, Errol Spence, is quiet. And he watched my IG, so he know what's up. Now, Spence has responded. He left this tweet right here, basically saying, I'm going to go ahead in and respond. Since you called me out, he tagged Terence in his and said he would get into it. You can read what's going on here. But basically, he thinks that this guy, Terence, isn't quite giving the complete truth. Or that's what he's saying, at least, from this tweet here. Basically saying that it's a lie, or it's not completely true, that Al didn't let or said he couldn't see the books. Now, I don't know what's what, but that's what Errol is saying. He's claiming Terence he's capping a little bit. All this leads to my opinion of what I think's going on here. Let me just get into it. So in my opinion, I'm not saying Al didn't do him dirty that way, or didn't at least say he wasn't going to give him the, let him see the paperwork or the revenue generated for the fight. Maybe that is how it happened, but why is my concern. I feel like that's not a too difficult of a request. Even if it's okay, maybe you need to involve a lawyer or something like Terence Crawford was saying and look over the paperwork, not just you only, and involve that same person with seeing the funds, because they're going to relay it to Terence. But somebody to represent him, don't got to be a promoter, but somebody with a little more experience doing that side of the business, because Terence truly doesn't have it, more than likely, would be my thought. He's a fighter, not a businessman necessarily. So that could be the case. But I think Al just stalling a little bit. I think this is strategic. I remember how Bob Arum used to say that he was losing money on some of Terence Crawford's fights, like he was having to put more money into the promotion and not getting the same kickback once the numbers came in from the pay-per-view and everything else. He said Terence didn't promote himself well enough, or he just wasn't popular enough. Now that led to their split, because Terence wanted him to make this Spence fight and Bob didn't. Now he's on his own, and now Al Heyman ain't quite making the Spence fight quickly enough for none of us, including Terence. In my opinion, though, they just trying to hype this a little bit more, add more drama to it. Now these two, they haven't necessarily not liked each other or been enemies per se. They've been adversaries, looking at each other from the other side of the street, if you will, that's the man I got to take out to be the best. To be the best, you got to beat the best. That being said, now they're building this up, adding this steam, this fuel to it. Animosity between these two that we see building if you're paying attention to their interactions on social media. And it's hyping the fight. It's going to get people involved. If they wait too long, it could be too late. But if they're going to make sure this happens next year, it'll still be on time, in my opinion. And the fact that they're going to fight 1 week apart, Terence Crawford, I get him. If they wasn't going to fight this year, then I get waiting, holding it off as far as negotiations and getting a fight this year, because he wants to make sure he at least has a fight this year, because it's already been a year since he fought pretty much. So he wants to stay somewhat active. I mean, fighting once a year ain't really active, but that's better than not fighting this year. And then Errol, he was trying to get back active. He wanted his second fight this year, so he gonna take a fight. And he wasn't too keen about Keith Thurman because of how Keith treated him, in his opinion, when he was trying to get at Keith. So he was trying to give him a little bit of his own medicine, I feel, and basically not give him the fight. But now with all this stuff going up in the air, going up in smoke for now with this negotiations, it's the perfect time for Keith Thurman to be an option. Because Errol don't like Keith. Keith, I can't say he doesn't like Errol, but Errol don't seem to like Keith. That's going to build for this fight because Keith is going to sell the fight and talk his smack too because he feels real confident in his skills. And it's going to be something to prove because they both beat all the same guys. Spence beat Showtime and Danny Garcia. So did Keith. And Keith beat him before Errol. So you could say Errol caught him after they had caught them L's and beat those guys. Now Keith has lost to Manny Pacquiao. He looked a little bit shaky in his last fight. And Errol's looked more impressive. Errol should be the one favored. But Keith still, to this date, might be the best fighter on Errol's resume going into this one, other than maybe Mikey Garcia, who was undersized in most people's opinion, but Errol outboxed him. Now Terence, he ain't fighting. It's a professional, but not the likes of any of these guys I was just mentioning. But he got to stay active. But they fighting a week apart. Don't that seem a little fishy? Something for y'all to think about. Think they're going to really hype this up after they both win? And then we're going to hear about a 2-fight deal probably. For sure a 1-fight situation coming up probably in May or June when it's hot, when boxing is hot. And that's going to be the fight for people to see. And if it's a good one, we'll get more than one. That's my thoughts. Holler at y'all next time. All right, that's all the time I got. Y'all know what it is and you know what you're looking for. J-Heat Sports Media. Remember to like, subscribe, or hit that bell. Get in the comments. Let's go back and forth. I appreciate all the subscribers, the new ones and the ones that's been around for a while. Really appreciate y'all. Keep spreading the word about J-Heat Sports Media. Appreciate all the love. YouTube is home base. But I'm also on Instagram as well, at The Vault JMU414 on Twitter. And of course, what's up, TikTok? Holla at y'all next time.